Hey guys, D. Bonnie here, ER doctor turned marriage coach. Hey guys, have you ever had a time when your life changed seemingly in like just a moment? Now I know we've all probably had that happen tragically, unfortunately, but have you ever had it change for the positive, really just in a matter of, I don't know, a day? So that happened to a couple that I was talking to about their marriage, James and Tracy. So they came to see me, and guys, they were at odds with each other. Like, they walked in and, I mean, there was fighting happening. And I remember that we sat down to try to unpack what was going on because he came in and he had violated her trust, and then she was standing there and wouldn't even make eye contact with him. And in fact, as he's telling me some stuff, I look at her and I said, well, what do you think about this? And she's like, I can't even look at him right now. Like, I just want to punch him in the face. So doesn't sound like a day that's going to go well for them, right? But as we sat there and we were talking about like what was going on and how were things at home and how were they treating each other, something became clear to me. They were both being very reactive. So no one was proactively trying to solve their problems. They were just reacting negatively to each other. And so one of the things that we went through that afternoon was we talked about the idea of just pausing the moment between when you have a thought and it comes out of your mouth. And James said, I've honestly never done that. And in fact, it's funny that his name is James because what we talked about was actually written by Jesus' half-brother, James, in James 1:19, where he says, be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. And guys, I'm going to tell you that in that afternoon, just arming them with that, it gave them a different path in their marriage. Like they actually started incorporating that. So today I want to talk about two things. I want to talk about this idea that the future does not just have to be a repeat of the past. And the second idea is that what we look for, we find, whether that's in life or in our relationship or in our children. If we're looking for deficiencies, we're going to find them. And if we're looking for strengths, those are going to be there too. So let's chat a little bit about these two things. So the first thing is this idea that the future does not have to be an extension of the past. So what do I mean by that? I mean, whatever life you've been living over and over again, especially if it's not the one that you want, it doesn't have to continue to be that way. We can make a decision today to change our life, to change our marriage, to change the relationships with our friends, with our children, with society. And how does that happen? Well, Mahatma Gandhi, says that the future depends on what you do today. He doesn't say it depends on what you did in the past, and he certainly doesn't say that it depends on what you do tomorrow or in the future. The future depends on what you do today. Now, this can work both ways. As an example, my life is pretty good right now, but if I decided to go in this afternoon and rob a convenience store, then the trajectory of my life is going to change. Do you agree? By the same token, if I start making decisions today for things that I want to do differently, then that's going to adjust the trajectory of my life. Let's talk about our relationships. If I have issues with how I'm interacting with my wife, if we're going through some struggles, if we are not seeing eye to eye, right? You've probably been there. If we can come to an understanding of how we're going to interact with each other from here on out, and if I can think of how I'm going to do things differently so that I have a good influence on her, so that I bless her, that I serve her, then our relationship is going to start to change. By the same token, if I just stay where I am, if I keep doing the same thing over and over again, I'm going to get the same result. Right? I mean, that is by definition what insanity is. So let's talk about how we can apply this right now. If you make a decision today that you're going to change what your marriage looks like, or you're going to change your finances, right? That decision Not just a whim, not just an idea, not just a dream, but you make a decision that you're going to change how you do life, then suddenly our lives don't look like Groundhog Day over and over again. You remember Groundhog Day, the movie with Bill Murray, where he's in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, filming Groundhog Day, and yet something happens and every day he wakes up is the same day over and over and over again. Haven't you ever felt like that? Like he gets to the point that his day's just predictable. He knows Mary Lou's gonna come along and say hi, and he knows that Joe whoever is gonna trip over the trash can. I don't remember the details, but you get the point. And I've felt that way before in my life, where every day felt like a repeat of the past over and over and over again. And the days that happen to me like that are not the good days. I don't ever feel like the great days repeat over and over and over again. And maybe you've had that same experience where it's just like your life is the same raw, terrible day over and over and over again. But it doesn't have to be like that. Guys, I've been through this. I've had points in my life where I had to stop and say, what I'm doing is not working. I mean, go back 3 years ago in my current marriage. I'd been divorced twice, and then I was facing my third divorce. And at that point, I had to look up at God and go, I can't do this anymore. Show me a different way. And that's exactly what happened. In that summer of 2017, Megan and I completely changed the trajectory of our lives. But it was because we made a decision, and we made a decision to do that day what needed to be done, and it affected our future. When you've actually made a decision that your life is going to change no matter what, then you're not just holding on to this abstract idea that someday things are going to get better. No, you've decided it. You've actually willed it into existence because you're not going to do things the way that you've been doing them. You're going to make a change, and it's going to totally affect the trajectory of your future. Your future does not just have to continue on the way your present and past has looked. It can always get better. It can always get worse, so don't do the wrong things, but it can always get better, guys. The second concept that I want to bring to you today is this idea that what you look for, you will find. And that's true in anything. I mean, right now, the world is in chaos. But what I'm choosing to look at, I'm choosing to look at the blessing that it's given us. I'm not choosing to read all the conspiracy theories, and I'm not choosing to reflect on how bad this could get. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm being very practical with this. But I'm choosing to focus my mind on how is this making people better? How are people showing up better for each other? Suddenly, I'm going through the grocery store thanking the person stocking the shelves. I never did that before. But I realized that that person is mission critical. That person's the reason that my pantry, my refrigerator are stocked. And yet I always just previously walked right past. Maybe you've done the same thing. Maybe you're at a point in your life that you're starting to realize that there's different things that we need to be grateful for. And we need to actually write a gratitude list. For most of us, we've never spent time doing that. Everything just comes along and comes along and comes along, and life is good until it's not. So if you're at a place right now where you are feeding yourself in the midst of this coronavirus pandemic, all of this negative input from social media, from the news, from the conspiracy theorists, it is probably contributing to your anxiety. Now you might be saying, no, wait, I have to be informed. If I'm not aware of what's going on, my anxiety is going to skyrocket. I challenge you that maybe that's not true. Take a break, take a time out for a week or two and figure out, okay, am I getting more peace from being disconnected from all of the rat-tat-tat, the constant drumming from all of this sensory input, right? Just filling your brain with negative things. Try it, because I bet what you'll find is that your anxiety, it might rise a little bit initially when you feel like there's stuff that you need to know, but what I bet that you'll find is that in a day or two, it's actually settling down, Because all of this comes down to, like, what are we feeding ourselves, right? What lenses are we looking through? Are we seeing the positive in the world around us? Are we seeing the positive in our spouse? Or are we focused under a microscope on everything that's wrong? So my point is, what you focus on is what you will find. You know, there's a term that says, oh, you know, he sees the world through rose-colored lenses. So what's that actually mean? It means that that's somebody who tends to see the world brighter or more colorful because their lenses, the idea is that they're not really seeing reality, they're seeing their shade of reality. I believe that the way that you see your world, the set of lenses that you use, determines how you interpret your world. So if I want to just be constantly Eeyore, the world is bad, the sky is falling, then I'm going to stay on social media that makes me feel that way. I'm going to watch newscasts that makes me feel that way, right? It's what I focus on is what I'm going to find. But the same thing is true in your relationship. It's true in my relationship. If I choose to focus on all the little things that my wife does that I don't like or that she doesn't do the way I would do them, then right there, I'm going to have this skewed picture of her and I'm going to see her deficiencies. Because as wonderful as what Megan is, there are deficiencies. But if I focus on her strengths, then I'm going to find those too. And maybe you've dealt with that in your relationship. Maybe you're at a place in your marriage where things are just kind of sour or stagnant. And if you take a deep look at the things that you notice about your spouse, I can almost guarantee you that you're going to notice the negative things, the things that kind of push you away, and you don't like the way he doesn't put laundry away, or you don't like the way she cooks the pot roast, right? And if you focus in on those things, then right then and there, you're basically setting your marriage up for failure. Or if not failure, just mediocrity. And on here, we want to abandon mediocrity. Let me give you an example from just a couple of days ago. So our youngest son, Myles, he's 3.5, and Megan was out doing some yard work, and she came across a worm that she happened to not cut in half with her shovel. So she gets it out, and she lays it on the porch for Myles. And guys, he's in awe. Like, he says, this is my new friend. And he's just full of wide-eyed amazement. And to me, it's incredible to think about how when your focus shifts and you see something as simple as a worm that is so beautiful to you, like your whole day is brightened just because of the set of lenses that he uses, the lenses of a preschool-age child, for how everything's new and different, right? It completely changed his view of what you and I would have looked at and said, okay, that's a worm, like, get it out of here. And I tell you one more thing, just seeing how he responded lifted my heart. And I'm telling you that if you sprinkle these little affirmations throughout your day and your week onto your spouse, when you see an area in them that you appreciate, it's going to change your marriage. Guys, if you incorporate these two things and then the other concepts that I teach in my other videos, if you actually bring them into your life, into your marriage, it's going to help you not get divorced. And not only that, it's going to actually transform your relationship to the point that you enjoy being married. Maybe you've never really enjoyed that, but you will, because your marriage will become this foundation upon which your life rests. It'll become your strength, your rock, right? Not your ball and chain, not your anchor dragging you down, but it'll become this firm foundation in your life. And I tell you what that's going to do. Here's the thing. Here's your homework. I'm going to challenge you today to write down 10 things about your spouse that you like, 10 strengths that you see in this person. Even if you guys are, right, like two mountain goats clashing heads, step away from that for a moment and write down 10 things that are good about your spouse. And then start noticing those, right? Start picking up on those. And what you'll do over time is you'll tend to override your negative focus, so that when your spouse actually does something that demonstrates his or her strength, you actually notice it for a positive. So I'm going to encourage you to write down, start making a list of the good qualities of your spouse. Start sharing with them little wins that you see them doing. I made the bed yesterday morning. It's not uncommon. I make the bed. And did you know that while I was working last night, Megan texted me and said, "Thank you for making the bed today." Right? That's her spending her effort, her mind, focusing on the things that I do right, the things that I do as I try to serve her. Because guys, there's plenty of stuff that I screw up. There's plenty of times that I get my mouth ahead of my brain and I say things that in retrospect I should have just been quiet a little bit longer and processed things. And so in that area, she shows me grace. But you got to do this in not just your marriage, but your whole life. You have to learn what to focus on. You know, I mean, the old phrase is glass half full, glass half empty. There's so much truth to that. And it's very easy for us to get to a point in our lives that we don't even notice that we're pessimists, that we're seeing everything as half empty. We don't realize that what we're focusing on are the deficiencies in our spouse. So I'm going to encourage you guys, get out a pen right now. Write down 10 things that you like about your spouse and start sharing those. Start making a difference, because what's going to happen is if you start focusing on what your spouse is doing right, it's probably going to be contagious. Okay, so let's just break this down a little bit, because if you're still watching or listening or however you're digesting this, you're the person that I really want to talk to, because you're the one that's interested really in putting forth your effort, your time, and your energy into making your marriage better. So I commend you, and I'm here for you. I'm going to be your cheerleader and your coach, saying, keep going and do this and change this. So I'm proud of you. I'm glad that you're on. Let's just recap. I hope that you took notes. But the first concept that we talked about today was this idea that the future does not have to just be an extension of the past, right? We don't have to keep living Groundhog Day over and over and over again. James and Tracy figured that out when they came to see me, that they were empowered. You're empowered. You're empowered to change your future. And they realized that on that day that they could do things differently. And so if our lives are a mural in sections, right? The next section of your mural that starts today, it doesn't have to look like the past 3 or the past 5 or 10. You can change it. The second concept that we discussed was this idea that based on what you look for determines what you find. So if you look for strengths in your spouse, you'll find them. If you're looking just for deficiencies, you're going to find those too. And again, James and Tracy, they had to realize that. What are they looking for? Are they actually pausing to notice how the other person's feeling, or were they just reacting? Just reacting. And so remember, your homework, your challenge that I laid down for you is to write 10 things down today that you like about your spouse. Find 10 strengths. Write them out, 1 through 10. Keep going if you want. But then, as you go along this week, make mental notes of when your spouse does something that's on that list. And be like, oh yeah, that was number 4 on the list. I know that she's good at that. And just note it. And then offer that to your wife or your husband as encouragement. Right? We all need to know when we're doing things right. We all need to know when we're showing up well. Because otherwise it gets lost in the hustle and bustle, and we don't support each other enough. But I'm telling you that if you sprinkle these little affirmations on your spouse throughout the next week or 2, right? Oh, hey, I noticed that you put away the laundry today, and I appreciate that. Thank you. You're good at keeping up with things around here. Right? It's gonna totally change the dynamic of your relationship. I'm telling you guys, if you incorporate these 2 things, if you start modeling other concepts that I teach in other videos, it's gonna change your marriage. It'll prevent you from getting divorced. And not only that, it'll also allow you to enjoy being married. It's going to take your marriage to that next level. So if you're just kind of going along, kind of wallowing in mediocrity, it's going to bump it up several notches. And if you've already got a decent relationship, it's going to soar. Guys, this stuff works. I'm living proof of that. So I want to just encourage you. Do the things, do the work, roll up your sleeves, and make a difference. Make your future different than what it looks like it should be. Listen, thank you for being on here. If this helps you, if this gives you hope, I'm going to ask you to do me a few favors. The first is to leave some comments below, however you're getting this content. If it's a podcast or a Facebook video or YouTube, leave us some comments, because that helps us know what you're thinking and if what we're saying is resonating with you. And then the second thing I want you to do, please, is share this message with the people in your network so that they can start making their marriages better. Because guys, we all need this. We all suffer. We all have difficulties living with another human being. Are you kidding? Right? It's hard. So people around you need this, even if they look like they have great marriages. Like, they still need to incorporate these ideas to make things better. And then the last thing, if you'll do me a favor, hop over to YouTube and subscribe so that when I release content, I'm going to try to keep bringing you really good stuff that I hope helps you. I need your feedback to know if it does, but subscribe to our channel. That way, when I release a new video, you are constantly aware that there's something new that maybe you can tweak your marriage a little bit more and make it even better. I love you guys, and I'm so thankful that you're here with me, and I'm excited to be on this journey with you.